The shot rang out across the dusty plains of Wyoming Territory, echoing against the rocky outcroppings as Olivia Daniels pressed herself flat against the stagecoach seat, heart hammering wildly in her chest. It was 1878, and this journey to meet her future husband had just taken a terrifying turn. 3 bandits had surrounded the coach, their faces obscured by filthy bandanas, guns drawn and aimed at the driver who now sat with his hands raised in surrender. "Mail order bride, eh?" one of the men sneered, peering through the window at her travel papers. "Reckon you'll fetch a higher price than whatever's in the strongbox." Olivia clutched her small valise containing everything she owned: a few dresses, a worn Bible, and the letters from Owen Patterson, the man who'd advertised for a wife in the newspaper back east. A 30-year-old rancher with promising prospects and, according to his letters, gentle manners. Now she wondered if she'd ever meet him. The stagecoach door flew open. Rough hands reached for her, and Olivia screamed. The sound of her terror carried across the open plains, seeming to disappear into the vast emptiness. Then came another gunshot, closer this time. The bandit reaching for her jerked backward, clutching his shoulder. Blood seeped between his fingers as he howled in pain. His companions whirled around, guns raised toward an approaching rider. "That's far enough," the lead bandit shouted. "This ain't your business, cowboy." Olivia caught sight of a tall man on horseback, rifle raised. The sun behind him cast his face in shadow, but his voice carried clearly across the distance. "The lady is my business. That's my bride you're manhandling. Owen Patterson." It had to be. He'd written that he would meet the stage at Copper Creek if it was running early. Thank God he had. The bandits hesitated, 3 against 1, but the wounded one was growing paler by the second. The rider, Owen, kept his rifle steady, aimed directly at the leader. "You've got 5 seconds to ride out," Owen called, "or the next shot won't be a warning." 10 seconds passed before the leader cursed. "Mount up," he barked to his companions. "She ain't worth dying over." As the bandits scrambled for their horses, Owen spurred his mount forward. He fired once more into the air, sending the bandits' horses into a panicked gallop. In the chaos, he reached the stagecoach and extended his hand. "Miss Daniels," Olivia nodded, still trembling. "Come on." He leaned down from his saddle. They might circle back with friends. Without hesitation, she grasped his outstretched hand. With surprising strength, he pulled her from the coach and settled her behind him on his horse. One arm wrapped securely around her waist as he shouted to the driver, "Head for town. Tell Sheriff Collins what happened." The stagecoach lurched forward while Owen turned his horse in the opposite direction. Olivia clung to him as they galloped away, the wind whipping her bonnet from her head, her chestnut hair coming loose from its pins. She had imagined their first meeting 100 different ways, but never like this. "Hold tight," Owen called over his shoulder as they crested a hill, the horse's powerful muscles bunching beneath them. "My ranch is just beyond that ridge. We'll be safe there." Olivia pressed her face against his back, inhaling the scent of leather, horse, and soap. This stranger, this man she knew only through carefully penned letters, had just risked his life to save hers. And now she was clinging to him, racing across the open Wyoming plains toward a future she couldn't begin to imagine. They rode hard for nearly 20 minutes before the landscape changed. A creek appeared, lined with cottonwoods, and beyond it, nestled against the foothills, stood a modest but sturdy ranch house. A barn and several outbuildings clustered nearby, and in the distance, cattle grazed on the grassy slopes. Owen slowed his horse to a walk as they approached, giving Olivia her first chance to breathe normally since the attack. His ranch was smaller than she had pictured from his letters, but everything appeared well maintained. "Welcome to Silver Creek Ranch," Owen said, his voice softer now that danger had passed. "Not exactly the arrival I planned for you." They reached the yard, and Owen dismounted in one fluid motion before turning to help Olivia down. Her legs felt like jelly as her feet touched the ground and she swayed slightly. Owen's hand steadied her shoulders. "Are you hurt?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. For the first time, Olivia got a clear look at her rescuer. Owen Patterson was taller than she'd expected, with broad shoulders tapering to a lean waist. His face, tanned from working outdoors, had strong, clean lines. But it was his eyes that caught her attention, deep blue, and somehow both kind and fierce at once. Dark blonde hair in need of a trim curled at the nape of his neck. "I'm not hurt," she managed to say, "just shaken. Thank you for coming when you did." Owen nodded, a hint of a smile softening his features. "I'm sorry that was your welcome to Wyoming Territory." "How did you know?" she asked. "That I was on that stage. I didn't for certain," he admitted. "But I check every eastbound stage lately, hoping." He trailed off, looking almost embarrassed. "When I heard the commotion and saw the stage stopped where it shouldn't be, I knew something was wrong." A woman emerged from the ranch house, wiping her hands on her apron. She was older, with gray streaked hair and a weathered face. "You're back early, Owen," she called. Then, noticing Olivia, her eyes widened. "Oh, is this Mrs. Pearson? This is Miss Olivia Daniels," Owen said. "Miss Daniels, this is Mrs. Pearson, my housekeeper." The older woman hurried forward, immediately taking charge. "You poor dear, you look like you've seen ghosts. Come inside this instant." She shot Owen a questioning look. "Bandits," he explained tersely. "Tried to take her from the stage." "I'll need to ride to town and inform the sheriff." "Not before you've had something to eat," Mrs. Pearson insisted. "Both of you. Miss Daniels looks ready to collapse." Olivia didn't argue as they led her into the house. The interior was surprisingly cozy, with simple but comfortable furnishings. A stone fireplace dominated one wall of the main room, and windows let in abundant light. It smelled of fresh bread and coffee. Mrs. Pearson settled Olivia at the kitchen table and bustled about, setting out plates and pouring coffee. Owen hung his hat on a peg by the door and set his rifle in its rack before joining her. "I know this isn't how either of us planned our first meeting," he said quietly. "And after what happened, I'd understand if you wanted to return east on the next stage." Olivia's hands wrapped around the warm coffee mug. "Is that what you want, Mr. Patterson?" "Owen, please." He shook his head. "No, that's not what I want, but I want you to feel safe." "Those men," she began, "do you think they'll come back?" "Not likely," Owen said. "They'll know I've reported them by now. But to be safe, I won't leave you alone until they're caught." Mrs. Pearson set plates of stew and bread before them. "Eat now, talk later," she instructed. "Miss Daniels needs her strength." As they ate, Olivia studied the home that could be hers. It was nothing like her parents' crowded Philadelphia row house. Here, space stretched endlessly outside the windows, and the silence was broken only by natural sounds: wind, birds, distant cattle. It was alien, yet somehow appealing. "Your letters didn't mention Mrs. Pearson," Olivia said. Owen looked slightly embarrassed. "She only started working here 3 months ago. After my mother passed last winter, I realized I couldn't manage the ranch and the household alone." He hesitated. "I should have written about the change, but I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "That you might think I no longer needed a wife." Olivia set down her spoon. "Is that the only reason you advertised? Because you needed someone to keep house?" Mrs. Pearson made a discreet exit, muttering something about laundry. Owen's expression grew serious. "No, Miss Daniels. I advertised because I'm 28 years old and tired of being alone. This land, these cattle, what's the point of building something if there's no one to share it with?" He looked down at his plate. "I want a family, children, a partner. The simple honesty of his words touched something in Olivia. At 22, she had watched her friends marry one by one while she cared for her ailing parents. After they passed, leaving only debts behind, becoming a mail-order bride had seemed her only option. "I should prepare your room, Mrs. Pearson announced, returning to the kitchen. "You'll be staying in the guest room until the wedding, of course." Owen looked alarmed. "Mrs. Pearson, given today's events, perhaps we should—" "I'll hear no arguments," the housekeeper interrupted. "Propriety matters even in Wyoming." "The wedding," Olivia repeated, suddenly overwhelmed by everything. "We haven't even discussed. There's no rush," Owen assured her quickly. "The agreement was for a month to get acquainted before any decisions." Olivia nodded, relieved. Their correspondence had established this arrangement time to determine if they suited each other before making the marriage legal. "I still need to ride to town," Owen said, standing. "Sheriff Collins should organize a search party for those bandits before they trouble anyone else." "Must you go now?" Olivia couldn't keep the anxiety from her voice. Owen's expression softened. "You'll be safe here with Mrs. Pearson. The ranch hands are nearby and I won't be gone long." After he left, Mrs. Pearson showed Olivia to a small but pleasant bedroom. "Don't you worry about a thing," she said kindly. "Owen's a good man, one of the best I've known. He'll keep you safe." "How long have you known him?" Olivia asked. "Known his family most of my life, watched him grow up. When I lost my husband last year and needed work, Owen didn't hesitate." She patted Olivia's hand. "Rest now, it's been a trying day." Alone in the room, Olivia unpacked her meager belongings. From her valise she withdrew Owen's letters, rereading passages she knew by heart. His handwriting was strong and clear, like the man himself. She compared the written words to the flesh and blood man she'd just met. The letters had been respectful, sometimes awkward in expressing feelings, but genuine. The man seemed the same. She moved to the window, gazing out at the vast landscape. Philadelphia, with its crowded streets and sooty air, seemed a lifetime away. Here the land stretched endlessly, wild and beautiful, frightening in its vastness, yet somehow freeing. "Could I belong here?" she whispered to herself. "Could this become home?" The sound of approaching hoofbeats interrupted her thoughts. Her heart leapt to her throat until she recognized Owen returning, accompanied by another rider. They dismounted in the yard, talking seriously before the stranger departed again. When Owen entered the house, his expression was grim. Mrs. Pearson met him in the main room where Olivia had ventured upon hearing his return. "The sheriff's organizing men to search," Owen explained. "Those weren't just any bandits. That was the Hawkins gang. They've been terrorizing the territory for months." "The Hawkins gang," Mrs. Pearson gasped. "They killed the Wilsons over in Dry Creek," Owen nodded grimly. "Which is why I'm glad I got to Miss Daniels when I did." He turned to Olivia. "The sheriff's putting out word to all the ranches. We'll be on alert until they're caught." "Are we in danger here?" Olivia asked. "They'd be fools to try anything at a defended ranch," Owen assured her. "But I'll have the hands take shifts keeping watch, just to be safe." That evening they ate supper together, the conversation stilted at first but gradually easing as Mrs. Pearson kept things lively with tales of local happenings. Owen spoke of his plans for the ranch, expanding the herd, perhaps adding sheep next year if the market remained strong. Despite the day's events, Olivia found herself relaxing in his presence. After Mrs. Pearson retired, they sat by the fireplace, the spring evening having turned cool with nightfall. "Tell me about Philadelphia," Owen said. "I've never been east of the Mississippi." So she told him about cobblestone streets and gaslit shops, about the bustle of the city and the crush of humanity. "It's nothing like this," she concluded. "Here you can breathe." Owen nodded. That's why my father came west, said the cities made him feel trapped. He stoked the fire. What about your family? You mentioned your parents passed away, but do you have siblings? A brother, Nathan. He went to California during the gold rush. We lost touch years ago. Olivia hesitated. Your letters mentioned your mother, but not your father. He died 8 years ago. Pneumonia. Left the ranch to me and my brother Perry. Owen's jaw tightened. Perry wanted to sell. When I wouldn't agree, he took his half of the money and left for Denver. Last I heard, he lost it all gambling. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me what matters, this land, making something last. His gaze met hers, building something worth passing on. The intensity in his eyes made her pulse quicken. It must be rewarding, she said softly, creating something from nothing. It is, he agreed, but lonely at times. He seemed about to say more, but instead stood up. It's late. You must be exhausted. Yes, she admitted. It's been quite a day. Tomorrow, if you feel up to it, I'd like to show you the ranch. He walked her to the hallway leading to her room. Good night, Miss Daniels. Olivia, please, she corrected him. And thank you again, Owen, for today. A smile touched his lips. Sleep well, Olivia. She lay awake for some time, listening to the unfamiliar night sounds, the distant lowing of cattle, the whisper of wind around the eaves, the occasional creak of the house settling. So different from Philadelphia's constant noise. Just before sleep claimed her, she realized she hadn't felt afraid since arriving at Silver Creek Ranch. Despite the day's terror, morning dawned clear and bright. Olivia dressed in her simplest gown, anticipating a tour of the ranch. When she entered the kitchen, she found Mrs. Pearson already at work and Owen just returning from the barn. Good morning, he greeted her. I hope you slept well. Better than I expected, she admitted. Any news of the bandits? Nothing yet, Owen replied, but the sheriff has men watching all the roads. After breakfast, Owen suggested they ride out to see the ranch. Noticing Olivia's hesitation, he added, We can take the wagon if you prefer. No, she decided. I should learn to ride if I'm to live here. She hadn't explicitly agreed to stay, but the words slipped out naturally. Owen smiled. I have just the horse for you, gentle as a lamb. The mare he saddled for her was indeed gentle, responding to the slightest touch. Owen patiently showed Olivia how to mount and control the animal, his hands strong and steady as he adjusted her posture. You're a natural, he encouraged as she guided the horse in a small circle. They rode at a leisurely pace, Owen pointing out landmarks and explaining the operation of the ranch. The spring grass was lush, and cattle grazed contentedly across the rolling hills. It's beautiful, Olivia said sincerely. So different from what I'm used to, but beautiful. It grows on you, Owen replied. I can't imagine living anywhere else. They stopped atop a ridge overlooking a creek, dismounting to rest the horses. Spreading his coat on a flat rock, Owen invited her to sit. From this vantage point, they could see for miles the ranch buildings looking tiny in the distance, mountains rising blue on the horizon. Your letters didn't do it justice, Olivia said. Words fail me sometimes. Owen gazed across the landscape. My father staked this claim when there was nothing but wilderness, built that house with his own hands. You love this place very much. It's part of me. He turned to look at her. I know it must seem harsh compared to city life. Different, she corrected. Not harsh. There's an honesty to it. They talked easily as the morning passed, sharing stories of their childhoods, discovering shared values despite their different backgrounds. Owen spoke of his dreams for the ranch, and Olivia found herself drawn into his vision. As they prepared to return to the house for lunch, the sound of approaching riders caused Owen to tense. He quickly helped Olivia mount her horse. Stay behind me, he instructed, his hand moving to the revolver at his hip. 3 riders approached, and Olivia's breath caught until Owen relaxed, recognizing them. "It's just Hank and some of the hands," he assured her. The ranch foreman rode up, touching his hat respectfully to Olivia. "Boss, Sheriff Collins sent word. They tracked the Hawkins gang to that old mining camp in the hills. Reckon they're holed up there." Owen's expression hardened. "How many men does the sheriff have?" "Not enough by my count. He's asking for volunteers to ride with him at dawn." Owen nodded. "Tell him I'll be there." "Owen." Olivia couldn't contain her alarm. "That's too dangerous. Those men would have taken you yesterday," he reminded her gently. "Who knows how many others they've hurt. I can't sit by when the sheriff needs men." The ride back to the ranch was subdued. Olivia understood Owen's sense of duty, but fear gripped her heart. She'd known him barely a day, yet the thought of him riding into danger left her cold with dread. That afternoon, Owen checked his weapons and prepared for the morning ride. Olivia watched him clean his rifle with practiced ease, his movements methodical and sure. "How long will you be gone?" she asked. "A day, maybe 2. He glanced up. "Mrs. Pearson will stay with you, and I'll leave 2 hands at the ranch." And if she couldn't finish the question. Owen set down the rifle and crossed to where she stood. "Olivia, I've lived in this territory all my life. I know these hills and how to handle myself." "The Hawkins gang has killed people," she reminded him, "which is why they need to be stopped." His voice was gentle but firm. "I'd be no kind of man if I let others face this danger while I stayed safe at home." She recognized the truth in his words, even as she feared for him. This was the man she had glimpsed in his letters, principled, responsible, willing to stand for what was right. That evening, the atmosphere in the house was tense. Mrs. Pearson prepared a hearty meal, but conversation was sparse. When the housekeeper retired early, claiming fatigue, Olivia suspected she was tactfully giving them privacy. Alone by the fire, Owen finally broke the silence. "I've been thinking about what happens after tomorrow." "After you return safely," Olivia emphasized. He smiled briefly. "Yes, after that." He hesitated. "Our agreement was for a month before deciding, but given what's happened, I'd understand if you wanted to return east. Is that what you want?" "No." The word came quickly, decisively. "I want you to stay, Olivia. I know it's only been a day, but everything I hoped when we corresponded." He stopped, seeming to search for words. "You're exactly as I imagined, brave, kind, strong." Olivia felt her cheeks warm. "You can't possibly know that yet. I saw how you handled yourself yesterday. Most women would have been hysterical after such an ordeal." "I was terrified," she admitted, "but you didn't let fear control you." He moved closer. "That's the kind of partner I need. Someone who can face the challenges of this life." His praise stirred something in her pride, yes, but something deeper too. A sense that here, in this wild place, she might find purpose beyond what she'd known in Philadelphia. "I'm not ready to leave," she said softly. "But I'm not ready to decide forever either." Owen nodded. "That's fair. We'll keep to our original agreement." He reached out, hesitated, then gently took her hand. "But I want you to know, if anything happens tomorrow—" "Don't," she interrupted. "Nothing will happen." "If it does," he persisted, "everything I have is yours. I've left papers with my lawyer in town." Olivia stared at him, shocked. "Owen, you can't." "I can. I've no family left to claim it." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "I'd rather it go to you than to the territory." The intimacy of his touch sent warmth spreading through her. "You'll come back," she insisted, "and we'll have our month to decide." "Yes." His voice was low, "but tonight I'd like your permission for something." She looked up into his eyes, so earnest and blue in the firelight. "What?" "To kiss you, just once, before I ride out." Olivia's heart thundered in her chest. It wasn't proper, not before they were married or even properly engaged. But tomorrow he would ride into danger, and the thought of him leaving without "yes," she whispered. Owen moved closer, one hand rising to cup her cheek. He bent slowly, giving her every chance to reconsider before his lips met hers. The kiss was gentle at first, almost reverential. Then, as her hands lifted to his shoulders, it deepened into something more urgent, more revealing. When they finally parted, both breathless, Owen rested his forehead against hers. "I've been wanting to do that since I first saw you on that stage," he admitted. "Even with bandits shooting at us," she teased, trying to lighten the mood. "Even then." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Especially then." They stayed by the fire a while longer, talking softly of everything and nothing. When Olivia finally rose to retire, Owen caught her hand once more. "Whatever happens tomorrow," he said, "know that meeting you has made everything the ranch, the future, matter more than ever." "Come back safely," she replied. "That's all I ask." Dawn came too quickly. Owen was already dressed when Olivia emerged from her room, looking tired but resolved. Mrs. Pearson served a hearty breakfast, fussing over Owen in a motherly way that spoke of her concern. "The men are ready, boss," the ranch foreman reported, appearing at the door. Owen nodded, buckling on his gun belt. He turned to Olivia. "I'll return as soon as I can." "Be careful," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. He touched her cheek briefly, a gesture both tender and restrained, before turning to leave. Olivia followed him onto the porch, watching as he mounted his horse and rode off with the ranch hands, their figures gradually disappearing into the distance. The day stretched endlessly before her. To keep busy, Olivia helped Mrs. Pearson with household tasks and explored the ranch buildings. The housekeeper told stories of Owen's childhood, painting a picture of a serious boy who grew into a respected man. "His mother would have liked you," Mrs. Pearson declared as they prepared supper. "She always worried he'd never find someone worthy of him." "We haven't decided yet," Olivia reminded her. "This was to be a month of acquaintance before any commitment." Mrs. Pearson smiled knowingly. "I've seen how he looks at you, and how you look at him." Olivia couldn't deny the connection she felt with Owen, stronger than she'd expected after such a short time. But was it enough to build a life upon? Night fell with no word from the posse. Olivia slept fitfully, waking at every sound. The next day passed in the same anxious waiting. By evening, even Mrs. Pearson's reassurances sounded hollow. Just after supper, as darkness settled over the ranch, they heard hoofbeats approaching. Olivia rushed to the door, heart in her throat, to see several riders entering the yard. Relief flooded through her at the sight of Owen, dusty but apparently unharmed. He dismounted wearily, speaking briefly to his men before approaching the house. When he saw Olivia waiting, his tired face brightened. "You're safe," she said, the simple words carrying all her relief. "We got them," he replied. "Hawkins and his whole gang, they won't trouble anyone again." Mrs. Pearson bustled forward. "You look exhausted. Sit down this instant while I fix you something to eat." Owen obeyed, sinking into a chair at the kitchen table. As the housekeeper prepared food, Olivia poured him coffee, noting the dark circles under his eyes and the stubble on his jaw. "Was anyone hurt?" she asked quietly. "One of the sheriff's deputies took a bullet in the arm. Nothing serious." Owen sipped the coffee gratefully. "Hawkins didn't surrender easily, but we had them outnumbered." "I was worried," Olivia admitted. Owen's hand covered hers on the table. "I promised I'd return." Mrs. Pearson set a plate before him, then tactfully announced she was retiring early with a headache. Once alone, Owen ate hungrily while Olivia sat across from him, simply glad for his safe return. "The sheriff asked about you," Owen said between bites. "Wanted to make sure you were recovering from the ordeal." "I'm fine," she assured him. especially now that those men are captured. When he finished eating, Owen leaned back in his chair. I've been thinking during the ride home about us. Olivia's pulse quickened. Oh, I know we agreed to a month, he began, and I'll honor that if it's what you want. But these past 2 days, not knowing if I'd see you again, he paused. Life out here is uncertain, Olivia. I don't want to waste the time we have. What are you saying? Owen reached across the table for her hand. I'm saying I already know what I want, you as my wife, partner, the mother of my children, but only if you feel the same. Olivia's breath caught. It was too soon, too fast. And yet, hadn't she felt the connection between them from that first moment? The way they understood each other, respected each other. We've known each other barely 3 days, she reminded him. And in those 3 days, we've faced more together than some couples do in years. He squeezed her hand gently. I'm not asking you to decide tonight. Just to consider that sometimes, the heart knows quickly what the mind takes time to accept. His words resonated with her own feelings, the immediate trust she'd felt in him, the sense of belonging that had grown with each conversation. Was it possible to know so soon? I need time, she said finally. Not a month, perhaps, but some time to be certain. Owen nodded. Of course. I shouldn't have pressed you after everything that's happened. It's not that, Olivia assured him. It's just marriage is forever. I want to be sure we're making the right choice, for both of us. The week that followed settled into a comfortable rhythm. Owen showed Olivia more of the ranch operations, teaching her about cattle and the seasonal work that kept Silver Creek running. She found herself genuinely interested, asking questions and offering observations that sometimes surprised him with their insight. You have a good eye for stock, he commented one afternoon as they rode among the herd. Most city folks can't tell one cow from another. Olivia laughed. I'm a quick learner. She patted her mare's neck, and I'm growing fond of this life. Each evening, they would sit together by the fire, talking long after Mrs. Pearson retired. Owen told stories of growing up on the frontier, while Olivia shared memories of Philadelphia. They discovered shared tastes in books and music, debated politics, and dreamed aloud about improvements to the ranch house. Gradually, Olivia found herself thinking of Silver Creek as home. She began helping Mrs. Pearson manage the household, learning the rhythms of ranch life. She started a small vegetable garden, envisioning summer harvests and preserves for winter. 10 days after Owen's return from capturing the Hawkins gang, they rode to town together. Olivia needed supplies that weren't available at the ranch, and Owen had business with his lawyer. Pine Creek was a small but growing town, with a main street boasting a general store, saloon, church, and a few other businesses. People greeted Owen warmly as they rode in, curious gazes falling on Olivia. Word travels fast, Owen murmured as they dismounted in front of the general store. Everyone knows you're my mail-order bride. And what do they think of that? Olivia asked. They think I'm the luckiest man in Wyoming Territory. He smiled, offering his arm. Come, let me introduce you to Mrs. Miller. She owns the store and knows everything about everyone. The storekeeper was a plump, cheerful woman who welcomed Olivia effusively. Owen Patterson, it's about time you brought this young lady to town. We've all been dying to meet her. As Olivia shopped, she overheard whispered conversations, catching fragments like saved her from the Hawkins gang and perfect for him. The town's approval was clear, if somewhat overwhelming. After finishing at the store, Owen led her to a small restaurant for lunch. I thought we deserved a meal we didn't have to cook ourselves, he explained over their food. Owen grew serious. I have something to ask you. Olivia set down her fork, her heart suddenly racing. Yes, the Reverend is in town today. He's usually only here every other Sunday. Owen reached across the table for her hand. "Olivia Daniels, these past 2 weeks have been the happiest of my life. I know who I want to spend the rest of my days with. Will you marry me? Today?" She stared at him, startled by the suddenness of the proposal despite their growing closeness. "Today." "But we haven't prepared anything." "Does that matter? We have each other. The Reverend. Witnesses can be found easily enough." His eyes held hers earnestly. "Unless you're still uncertain." Olivia considered his question carefully. The past 2 weeks had shown her who Owen truly was: honorable, hardworking, kind. She'd come to admire his strength and integrity, to enjoy his company, to imagine a future at Silver Creek. And yes, to love him, though the word had remained unspoken between them. "I'm not uncertain," she said softly. "But marriage should be special, remembered." Owen smiled. "Then let me do this properly." To her astonishment, he moved from his chair to kneel beside her. Several diners turned to watch, smiling. "Olivia Daniels," he said clearly, "from the moment I pulled you onto my horse and felt your arms around me, I knew you were the woman I'd been waiting for all my life. Brave enough to face whatever comes, gentle enough to make a house into a home, and strong enough to be my true partner. I love you. Will you do me the great honor of becoming my wife?" Tears blurred Olivia's vision. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Owen Patterson, I will marry you." The small restaurant erupted in applause as Owen rose to kiss her, a brief but tender promise of what was to come. They were married that afternoon in Pine Creek's white-steepled church. Mrs. Miller provided a bouquet of spring wildflowers, and the sheriff and his wife stood as witnesses. Olivia wore her best dress, not a proper wedding gown, but Owen's eyes shone with admiration nonetheless. The ceremony was simple but deeply moving. When the Reverend pronounced them husband and wife, Owen kissed her with a mixture of tenderness and passion that left no doubt of his feelings. "Mrs. Patterson," he murmured against her lips, "my wife." They rode home as the sun began its descent, casting the landscape in golden light. Silver Creek Ranch, their ranch, now appeared on the horizon, its buildings warm and welcoming in the evening glow. "When I sent that advertisement east, I never imagined," Owen said, his voice thick with emotion. "Nor did I when I replied," Olivia admitted. "But I wouldn't change a moment of it, not even the Bandits." Owen laughed. "No, without them, we might have taken much longer to recognize what we found in each other." She smiled. "Though I wouldn't care to repeat the experience." As they approached the ranch hands came out to greet them, having heard the news from a rider who'd passed them on the road. Mrs. Pearson stood on the porch, beaming with approval. "About time," she called. "I was beginning to think you'd both be too stubborn to see what was right before your eyes." That night, after a celebratory dinner prepared by Mrs. Pearson, Owen and Olivia stood together on the porch, gazing at stars more brilliant than any Olivia had seen in Philadelphia. "Happy?" Owen asked, his arm around her waist. "Very." She leaned against him, feeling the solid strength of the man who was now her husband. "It's strange. 3 weeks ago I was in Philadelphia, wondering what kind of man had advertised for a wife. Now I'm here, Mrs. Owen Patterson of Silver Creek Ranch." "Life takes unexpected turns," Owen agreed. "When I fired that shot at the Hawkins gang and pulled you behind my horse, I was just trying to save an innocent woman. I had no idea I was rescuing my own heart in the process." Olivia turned in his arms, raising her face to his. "I love you, Owen Patterson." "And I love you, Olivia Patterson." He bent to kiss her under the vast Wyoming sky, both knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, the rancher and his mail-order bride, whose love story began with danger but promised a lifetime of joy.